need to get the AC fixed on this thing. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Steve. This is Steve's Project Car Garage. Today I'm working on the Spitfire again. My weekend didn't quite go as planned. I wasn't able to secure the painting supplies that I needed for what I wanted to do. So today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a change of plans, and I'm going to be working on the rear wings, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what I have in store for the next couple of weeks. Stick around, it'll be a good video. All right, so the last time that we all hung out, I was working on the passenger side. I was working on getting this section here of the floors and the inner sole and the strengtheners welded in. As you can see, I've gone ahead and painted it all. So I went ahead and actually did the driver's side as well. So now we're fully secure there. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw those pictures earlier. What I did is I painted all of this and down here with 2 coats of the Master Series. And then I went ahead and I got some Spray Max 2K epoxy spray paint. And so I actually went ahead and I did 2 coats of the 2K epoxy spray paint, which was actually really, really nice stuff. It's about 35 bucks a can. And I was hoping to get more, but unfortunately they didn't have any more at the store. But so that's kind of where we're at. So this is all really kind of ready. And I mean, look at that finish. It's actually pretty nice. This is the Hot Rod Satin Black. Yeah, I'm really kind of happy with the way it came out. I mean, this is all going to be covered up and sealed away anyways, but the idea is just that it's protected from rust in the future. But I'm really kind of happy with it. So let's talk about what I was going to do. All right, so let's talk about rear wings. So these are the rear wings that came off the car. For the most part, they're actually in pretty decent shape. There's a couple of areas that will require some hammer and dolly work, but for the most part, they're pretty solid. What I wanted to do was to go ahead and sand all of them on the inside to give that E-coat a good scuff and clean. And then I was going to use some more 2K epoxy paint to just go ahead and hit them with some paint and get them ready to be welded on. Well, couldn't get any more of that 2K epoxy paint. So what I want to focus on is trying to get this stuff all cleaned up. But before I do that, I want to turn my attention to one little spot over here. See this right here? That little tab is supposed to come out. There's a little spot of rust right there too. On this side, when they put it together, they got it all to close up, right? Looks good. So I started banging away on this, trying to figure out why the heck this wasn't moving. And it turns out there's this great, big, huge booger weld right there. And that's why they couldn't get it to close up. So the mission today is to try to fix this. And then, once that's fixed, I'll go ahead and start preparing those panels. But this is #1 priority. So let's see what we can do. All right, so when looking at this stuff here, you can see that there's just this massive like booger weld here. And that's what's stopping this from closing up. And there's also a bunch of corrosion here. So what I'm gonna start by doing is trying to just cut this massive booger out with my cutting wheel. And then we'll have to see about trying to make a small patch to fix this here. But I wanna be able to first get this out so I can then close this up. And then also, if you look back here, there's like a huge gap. I mean, really, who thought that this was acceptable? I don't know. But anyways, I digress. We're here to fix it. So I cleaned that up. I just used the grinding wheel just to kind of, clear the paint away. It's not bad. Metal underneath there is pretty solid, which is good. So now I'm gonna try to just bend that this way and see what we're gonna have to then work with. Alright, so I took the wire wheel to this and cleaned it up. Metal's not perfect, but it'll work. Anyways, this is all hidden anyways behind the taillight. But I think that what I'll end up doing is I'll run a bead of weld through here to attach this. And then I'll end up having to grind it so that way it's nice and smooth. And then for over here, I guess what I'll end up doing is cutting a piece of metal. I don't know, maybe I'll try to make a patch that kind of cuts along here on a diagonal and then fills that hole in. This is my first time actually getting into like the bodywork side of things, so I'm a little anxious about doing this, but I mean, it's only metal, right? So let's get cracking. All right, so I'm doing a lot of thinking on this. This panel's pretty beat up. This panel's pretty beat up. Both are definitely salvageable. However, the welded on nuts on the back here that hold the taillight are stripped. There's like no thread left to them. I don't know if I can zoom in, let me see. No thread, absolutely no thread. And so I'm kind of thinking maybe I should try to separate this and make new panels. You can't buy these, at least not that I can find. I tried looking on all the regular sources, Rimmers, Moss, Spit Bits. I can't find them. It looks like they're just held in with a couple of spot welds. So I don't think it should be horribly difficult to remove. Although I say that now and I may be eating my words. But regardless, what I'll end up having to do is removing these lock nuts and then putting on a new nut. So that way I can at least attach the taillights, right? But I think that these should be somewhat easy to recreate. I don't know. I'm gonna think on this for a few minutes and come back with a decision. See you tomorrow. Well, had you asked me earlier today what I would have been doing, I would have never guessed that I would have been remaking a panel. So, what I've done is I've kind of tried to flatten this out on my vise. I got a piece of 20 gauge And I'm gonna go ahead and just trace this out. As you can see, I've got the little tab here from the bottom. I'll mark the holes. These holes were done when I was removing it. I don't know where that hole or that hole originated from. These are the holes that really do matter. So let's trace it out and see if we can remake it. Not really sure how I'll mark those. Those are pretty deep. Let's see. I'm gonna use my center punch. Oh. All right, not bad. It could just use a little cleaning up around the edges, so let me do that, and then we'll take a look at it. All right, so took a minute off camera, and I just cleaned up the burrs on the side of this thing. And I went ahead and slapped the rear wing on, and as you can see, fits up pretty nicely. So, through the magic of YouTube, I went ahead and I did the other side, and this is the final product. So, much like the same of the other side, just, you know, mirror imaged. And then this guy just fits right in there. I had a lot easier of a time cleaning this up and separating these spot welds, unlike over here. But to be honest, this metal was a little bit weak anyways, so I'll end up having to cut that, make a little patch, try to somehow maintain that curve. But then over here also I had like another big booger weld from the previous guy or gal, and I had to get that out of there, so I'm gonna have to kind of cut this back. And then again, there's this like hole here, so I need to go ahead and make a little patch to go in there. So now the next thing is on the back I've got my holes marked. I need to figure out what size nut that was, as well as what size the screw was. I need to drill out these holes for the wires to go through, and essentially what's next is I need to get those nuts figured out, and then I can go ahead and weld these guys on in. So I think that what I want to do now is take a break from that side. I want to focus a little bit of attention up in here, and also on the other side over here, because again, like I said, you can see the holes here, and then if you come around to the back, you'll see that there's great big booger welds. Booger welds everywhere. And you know, I think that I can get in here and with some relative ease clean that up a little bit and then weld it up. And I don't know why I'm doing this part now, because now this is kind of getting away from what I was really going to work on, which was going to be the wings. But you know, I guess you got to do what you got to do, right? Plans change, and it's a whole lot easier to try to address this now with the wing off than it would be to do with the wing on. So I guess that's the moral of the story. Yeah, look how nice that paint came out. Happy with it. So anyways, I'm gonna take a 5-minute break, figure out what my next step is gonna be, and I'll let you know. Oh, it's hot in here. I need to get the AC fixed on this thing. All right, welcome back. So it's actually now Monday. It's the next day. Got out of Ace, said that I needed to get something to eat, and well, that's what I did. Got myself a sandwich, Wawa Hoagie Fest, gotta love it. And ended up taking a dip in the pool after, and well, The rest of the day just kind of got away from me. That's okay. So, anyways, back at it. So, as you saw in the last bit, I went to Ace, and I ended up getting some of these guys. So, these are, I think, 3/4 inch in length, the number 10s, and they got a machine thread to them. So, I got 4 of these guys ready to rock and roll. So, what we're going to do next is drill out the holes for the wires. I decided that I'm going to leave them as they're supposed to be, and then we'll go ahead and drill out the holes for the screws, and then we'll weld the nut onto the back, and then we'll start working on trying to get these guys put in. So stick around. Let's get cracking. All right, so I got my parts, and I went ahead and I got my holes drilled out. As you can see, I could really use some new drill bits because these things, they worked hard to get through here. So Harbor Freight, if you're watching, I know you follow my Instagram, but if you're watching my video, I could totally use like a small drill press and a really nice set of bits. But anyways, on to the next bit. So I was trying to figure out how I'm going to go ahead and get these nuts to be like perfectly center. And I was like, oh yeah, not a problem. Well, if I just go ahead and line it up from this side, I should be able to say, okay, yeah, that's good. Then I put it down and I was like, oh, the nut moved. Oh, that doesn't work. So what I did is I actually came over to my vise, and I went ahead and I put just a small little dot right there, right? And I figure if I put this, the hole, like right on the center of a dot, and then I put the nut on, so that way the nut is centered on the dot and nothing moves like it just did, it should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and put the camera up on the tripod because, well, trying to do this one-handed, obviously it's not working. So let's get this put on and weld it up. Not bad. It'll do. Just keep cracking. All right, so I got those guys welded on, and I went ahead and I just put the screws in just for yucks, just to make sure A, I don't lose them, but also B, make sure that I didn't put too much heat and damage the threads, and they seem pretty happy. So now I'm trying to think here, like, what's my next step? I got to figure out a little patch for this. I'm going to end up having to trim off some down here because there's just, let me see if I can zoom in. There's a good bit of rot right down in that bottom section, and I'm going to have to try to clear that up somehow. And then over here, again, I got same situation, but I've already kind of done some of the cutting. So I kind of think that what I want to do is sort of just cut straight across here to make this a nice simple cut, just right across there. So that way the piece that I have to make isn't like crazy jagged. So I think that that's probably going to be what I do next. It's going to be, I think, a relatively straightforward piece. It's going to pretty much just be a piece that comes out to here, has a little curve in it to make the rest of that flange, and that's it. It looks small, but I don't know. I kind of think that this might be one of the harder things I have to do. Let's keep going. All right, so I went ahead and got this all cut out, and it's a little bit better. So I should be able to make a patch here and cross our fingers and hope it works. So let's get patching. All right, welcome back. So I've got a little patch that I made here. You can see it sits in there rather nicely. I was able to pretty much maintain the curve that I was hoping for. I somehow missed this little spot here. I'm not overly worried about that, but I got that taken care of, so I'm going to weld that in. Then I also went ahead and flattened this out, and I flattened it out kind of on the back. What I'm going to end up having to do is just throw some weld in here to just kind of flatten this out, and then also tighten it up because I can still see some light through there. So let's get welding on this and wrap up the video. Let's get cracking. All welded in as you saw. Came in from the back side, so that way I could try to keep it as neat as possible. Minimal grinding over here. Got nice penetration, so I'm super happy with it over here. I have a little bit of grinding here to do first, but what I'm going to do is start wrapping it up, but I want to at least get this side's plug welds in before I go ahead and wrap up the video. But as you can see, everything fits up nice and tight like it should, so I'm really happy about that. All in all, if we're not really expecting to end up having to do this big a job on this, I'm happy that I did. And so let's go ahead and hit this. I went ahead and already put through weld through primer on all that, so let's let her rip taters. Not the cleanest of welds, but once I grind it all down, I think it'll be just fine. I threw an extra little tack in there because, well, I could see a little bit of light through it, but again, I'll get in here and I'll grind that back a little bit more. And then getting back in here, I can't really show you, back right in there was a bit of a pain, but I ended up coming through like the back over here and I made it work, but that's gonna be it. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video. All right, well, another successful night in the books here working on the Spitfire. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm gonna grind back those welds tomorrow. My son's actually kind of stirring right now and I don't want to make a whole lot more noise, so we'll give him a break for the night and we'll give the grinder a break, but tomorrow be sure that those will be flat. Anyways, if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe button, click the bell to get those post notifications, and keep posted. You know, I post updates on my Instagram as well as on my Facebook page, so feel free to definitely hang out and tune in. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap it up. Y'all have a great night. And remember, working on your cars, don't be that dreaded previous owner. Cheers.